Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
Every motorist in our country is well aware that he is obliged to take out an MTPL insurance policy. At the same time, one should not forget about the available privileges that this insurance can give. Here we are talking about the KBM, or bonus-malus coefficient. Among car owners, it is usually called simply a discount for accident-free driving. In this way, the essence and features of this coefficient become much clearer. This indicator directly affects the cost of issuing CMTPL insurance. The law on the use of the coefficient was adopted quite a long time ago. When calculating the actual cost of insurance, the PBM began to be used in 2013. It is important to note that the KBM is divided into increasing and special reducing. The first option is relevant for those who often fall in accidents and are involved in accidents, and the decreasing one is applied to those drivers who drive accident-free. The obligatory condition is the preservation of KBM when renewing the insurance and when switching to another insurer. What it is and why it is necessary. Understanding what the CMTPL coefficient is, you can count on a certain discount when taking out insurance. The adopted law regarding the discount on CMTPL insurance for accident-free driving has largely benefited motorists. It is worth noting that this is an incentive to drive more carefully. Yes, this discount is not crucial for everyone, but the very fact that there is an increasing and decreasing coefficient has its benefits. When contacting your current insurance organization for the first time, it would not be unreasonable to consult an expert about what this bonus-malus coefficient in compulsory motor TPL insurance is and what privileges you can actually get under the insurance. We should start with where it is applied. KBM is used when a driver enters into a contract or makes any changes to an already existing contract on MTPL insurance. The term of validity of the coefficient is 1 year. And here it is important not to confuse the validity of the policy itself with the period of use of the car. The duration of driving does not affect the change of the coefficient. Drivers and the direct owner of the vehicle can count on receiving a discount if the term of the previous accident-free insurance policy has already expired by the beginning of the new agreement. If the driver was not included in the MTPL insurance for a full year, or if he or she drove a car with a policy that has no restrictions, without being the owner, then the coefficient is equal to 1. All discounts and payments that have been accumulated for accidents caused by the driver will be canceled. It should be noted that all cars are subject to compulsory motor TPL insurance. However, not everyone can count on benefits for accident-free driving. The coefficient will not be applied if it is a transit insurance or the policy is issued for a vehicle with foreign registration. Types. To better understand what is the KBM in CMTPL insurance, it is necessary to consider separately each existing class of coefficient. It can be initial, calculated, owner, driver. Each of them has its own nuances, which should be known about. The calculation coefficient is the final PBM, which is used to calculate the final bonus premium under the current MTPL policy contract. The initial coefficient is the coefficient determined for the driver or owner at the time of signing the previous insurance contract. Initial PBMs are needed by the insurer to determine the coefficient for concluding a new insurance contract, relying on special tables. The owner. We are talking about the direct, insurable owner of the vehicle. This is the coefficient that is determined for the owner. It is used if it is necessary to calculate the cost of an unlimited type of MTPL insurance. This PBM can become the PBM of the driver directly. In this case, the reverse transition is not possible, driver. Here the bonus is determined separately for each specified driver who is allowed to drive. It is used when it is necessary to calculate the price of a subsequent CMTPL insurance policy with a limited list of people allowed to drive this vehicle. But this information may still not be enough to understand the nuances of calculating the special coefficient. Calculating the KBM. It's no secret that everyone expects the maximum discount on CMTPL insurance for accident-free driving. But how much it is actually possible depends on the driver himself. It is necessary to understand how the CMTPL discount is calculated and what is used in this process. To calculate the CMTPL discount, a special table is used on the basis of accident data in the previous agreement in situations. If, by the time the new agreement starts, the previous contract has already expired, that is, the terms have expired or the parties have terminated the contract early, from the date when the previous policy expired, has not been more than a year. Read also, Car Collision Avoidance System. Purpose and principle of operation. The accident rate information itself is the number of past insurance payments if the owner or driver was at fault. It also includes bonuses received when the parties entered into the last completed CMTPL insurance agreement. A lot of questions arise regarding what is the maximum possible KBM for CMTPL insurance. Currently, it is 0.5, which corresponds to Class 13. It should be understood how the CMTPL is determined and what you need to know to determine it. The bonus will be determined depending on what type of coefficient we are talking about. Calculating the PBM for the driver, here we are talking about a limited variation of the insurance. According to the insurance contract, here there are restrictions on the number of persons who are allowed to drive a motor vehicle. When calculating the price of the policy, the driver with the worst coefficient is taken. Each driver has his own bonus-malus in the car insurer's database. The others will not be affected by the worst coefficient. The discount is given to the person, not the vehicle. So if the car is replaced, the coefficient will still remain. An increasing special coefficient can be applied after 1 year only. In respect of the driver, who was the perpetrator of the accident, the calculation of this bonus-malus has its own nuances. It is therefore necessary to clarify in advance what the CMTPL depends on. The coefficient that was assigned to the driver when he or she took out the last insurance policy that expired. Only those agreements where the driver was authorized to drive are taken into account, or the owner of the vehicle. If there are several agreements that have simultaneously ended, then the calculation is based on the worst value of the coefficient. The number of payments that were made for the accident, where the driver was the culprit, is calculated. For the correct determination of the already new coefficient, the corresponding calculation tables are used. This will allow you to understand exactly how much the bonus-malus coefficient for the driver himself will amount to. Owners and PBM, this is already an unlimited type of MTPL insurance. If the contract does not have a specific list of people who are allowed to drive the car, then the coefficient will be assigned only to the direct owner. The discount will be determined on the basis of the last completed insurance agreement, the previous agreement. With no restrictions will be taken into account. A mandatory condition is that the owner and the vehicle under the new and old contract coincide. For this situation, a slightly different calculation algorithm is used. Here everything is carried out as follows. The insurer determines the last MTPL insurance contract where the owner and the vehicle were the same as the owner and the vehicle under the new agreement. Determine the number of insurance payouts where the owner was the perpetrator of the accident or the driver who drove his car under an unrestricted type of insurance policy. New coefficients are calculated on the basis of tables. In fact, the client of the insurance company is not very much interested in how exactly the representative of the organization performs calculations. But it is better to have some knowledge on this subject in order to exclude the possibility of deception or incorrect calculation of the discount due when issuing a new contract of motor liability insurance. Use of tables. There are special tables on which the main calculation is carried out. They show the dependence of the current coefficient on the number of road accidents that occurred through your fault. It is quite easy to use the calculation tables. For this purpose, it is necessary. Relying on the leftmost column with values, choose the KBM, which is actual for you under the contract of CMTPL insurance at the moment. In the upper line of the table, select the number of road accidents where you were at fault. The value in the cell where the two lines intersect will be the coefficient that will be used to calculate the price of the new policy. At most, the driver or the owner of the vehicle can receive a decreasing type of bonus-malus coefficient, which is equal to 0.5, and corresponds to Class 13. In practice, this means receiving a 50% discount on the cost of the insurance policy. The bonus is applied to those drivers who can boast 10 years of accident-free driving. It is important to make one clarification. Influence on the coefficient is not just the number of accidents and traffic accidents committed at your fault. Here, the fundamental factor is the number of insurance payments made by your insurance company for these accidents. To put it differently, if there was an accident but the disputes were resolved without the intervention of the insurance company, this accident is not taken into account in the calculations. Read also, what is automobile leasing? What are its advantages and peculiarities of registration recognizing and checking the coefficient? It is logical to assume that every motorist who takes out an MTPL policy will want to know what kind of discount he is entitled to. Therefore, it is necessary to understand how it is checked. KBM may gradually change, and it directly depends on how accident-free the vehicle is operated. How much the coefficient for the discount on MTPL insurance will change is a rather relevant question. One of the options for checking the available bonus-malus coefficient is to contact your insurance company. A representative of the insurer will be able to answer all your questions about the possible discount, but you can do without going to the insurance company. For this purpose, there is an official website of the Union of Motor Insurers. On it is available all the necessary information for the owners and drivers of vehicles specified in the documentation. Where prescribes, there is another option: how to find out your current KBM coefficient of CMTPL insurance. To do this, it is not necessary to go to the official website of car insurers or go directly to your insurance company. Sometimes it is enough to look in the current insurance policy. Quite often the value of the coefficient is indicated in the document. Although it is important to note that in the current legislation there is no such requirement, according to which the car insurance company is obliged to write down the coefficient in the form to calculate the current bonus for active accident-free driving. This depends directly on the internal orders and instructions of the insurance company's management. Some of them do require agents to write down the coefficients used. This is usually done in front of the names of all drivers authorized to drive the vehicle if it is a limited type of CMTPL insurance policy. If it is an insurance policy for a vehicle with an unlimited number of persons authorized to drive, then the information is entered in the column with special marks. The final coefficient or discount, as well as the KBM of the owner and driver, the agent must be specified in the application for insurance services. The parties fill in this application when they conclude a contract or renew a previous MTPL insurance agreement. Missing PBM. Quite often motorists are interested in how they can restore the KBM under CMTPL insurance if it has disappeared. Such situations are observed in those drivers who were characterized by accident-free driving over the past few years, but at some point suddenly the coefficient became equal to 1. Motor vehicle owners and drivers are also interested in how to restore a fair CMTPL insurance policy if the values calculated by the insurance company differ from those on the official website of the Union of Motor Insurers. It is possible to recover the bonus for accident-free driving under CMTPL insurance by submitting an application. You can apply to your insurance company or apply directly to the Union of Motor Insurers with a request to restore the coefficient. For accident-free operation of your vehicle. Retention of the coefficient in case of an accident. Not everyone can boast of accident-free driving, but many people are upset when, after a long period of driving without any problems, the driver suddenly finds himself involved in a traffic accident. This potentially threatens the loss of a substantial discount. So the question arises as to how you can keep your PBM even if you have an accident. In fact, it is possible. It all depends on the specific circumstances. You can count on the preservation of the discount if the injured party has received compensation at the expense of the guilty party. Neither party contacted the insurance company because of the accident. The injured party did not apply to the insurance company to receive compensation due to the insured event. Of course, when you yourself are the victim in a traffic accident, i.e., you are not at fault, this situation has no effect on the discount. It will remain unchanged. The PBM does give motorists some advantages. It is an opportunity to save a lot of money when buying a new insurance policy or renegotiating a previous agreement. Plus, the discount acts as an incentive for accident-free driving. Drivers are then more interested in avoiding accidents. And this requires following traffic rules, strictly following all signs, and not breaking the speed limit. To what extent in reality the probability of getting or losing a discount affects the manner of driving, it is difficult to say. But this bonus system clearly has more advantages than disadvantages. No one will not mind that for their habit of careful driving every year not to overpay for a new MTPL policy, but to pay up to half of its full value.